Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Great turnout. I've got to say, we might have one more person coming tonight, June, who might be later on coming. She's working. But tonight, my name's Gail Sheridan, and I'm going to chair tonight's meeting. We have, as we are starting right now with 3, there might be the 4th person coming later on. Once I get to each person, I'll introduce them. But I'd just like to say that the last time I was here, we had a fantastic night. It was just before the referendum. And of course, we all cried a river when we never won, or did we not won? Did we not won? I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll see if the momentum has carried on. Personally, my hope is that we have a great return for SNP candidates to Westminster, and then we have the hope of another referendum, which I'm sure will come if we have a great return at the general election. Tonight, I'm not sure who's first speaking. Sam. Sam, our young boy here. I'd like to say as well, I'd like to thank Ian Russell, who asked me to chair tonight, the lovely Ian. Thank you very much, who talked me into it. Anyway, we're going to pick Sam up quickly here. Sam, a young boy who's at Edinburgh College, who's looking forward to going to Edinburgh University to do politics and hopefully become a politician. He does not know what he's let himself in for, I can assure you. However, I won't waste any more time. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Shackleton.
Hello everyone, it is an absolute pleasure to be speaking today in front of you all, and it is also a pleasure to speak alongside Owen, who is the candidate for Midlothian, and Tommy, who has been a fantastic inspiration to me with all his work during and before the referendum. Now, I would like to begin by introducing myself to those of you who don't know me. As Gail said there, I'm a 19-year-old student, and I am currently studying at Edinburgh College. And over the past few years, I have been very passionately involved in the Yes campaign, and recently I have been supporting the SNP and the SNP students in their campaigns around Scotland. Now, before moving on to discussing with you the general election, which is fast approaching, I want to share with you a little bit my story about how I got involved in the Yes movement and then the SNP. I see there's a few younger people here tonight, so hopefully this story can inspire you to become involved in politics, much like I became involved in politics. So initially, when the referendum was announced, I was around about 16 years old, and at that point I was very, very disheartened with politics. I really, beforehand in the 2010 elections, I supported the Lib Dems. I know you can boo me if you want, but in high school, I saw them as one of the, these new progressive parties. I saw what they said about tuition fees. It looked great, and we all know what happened with that. They jumped into bed with the Tories, backtracked on all their promises, all their policies, and that really, it completely, I felt betrayed, and after that I pretty much vowed not to get involved in politics ever again, but obviously that isn't the case because I'm standing in front of you all today speaking on behalf and for the SNP. Now, after seeing the passion and energy that was exuded by the Yes campaign in the run-up to the general election, I began to understand to myself that there could be a better future for our country. Until that point, I had no hope that the system could change because the politics in Westminster just seemed really corrupt and repetitive. And I think that, as long as big business is involved in politics, it can never really truly represent the people, represent the people's interest. As long as money is involved, politicians can't represent people. As long as public lobbyists fund politicians with millions and millions of pounds, we can't see true representation in Westminster. But I saw in the Yes movement, as I'm sure many of you did, a future of politics free from morally corrupt tycoons and billionaires. I saw a future in which the wealth of our country could be shared amongst the people who needed it the most, rather than taken from them and funneled to the top, like it is now. You know, I saw a vision of a country that could reinvent itself, both culturally and politically and economically, whilst being acceptant of all gender, races and sexualities. What I saw, and I'm sure what many people here saw, was a vision of hope. It was a vision of hope over the fear of, that we've become accustomed to under Westminster rule. And I think it really was epitomised by Tommy and the Hope Over Fear campaign and everyone who got involved in that and the big rallies after the referendum. That brings us to where we are now, which is, of course, the general election. You know, we're only 41 days, I believe, now away from what I think is the most important decision that Scotland will ever have to make, you know, before the referendum. And I think this is a turning point for the Yes movement. It really is. You know, we might have lost the referendum, I accept that, that's fine. But I think if we can secure an SNP majority in May, we can prove to the whole Westminster establishment that the Yes movement wasn't defeated. It wasn't defeated in September. You know, I think the Yes movement highlighted the cracks in the Westminster establishment. No longer can politicians hide behind false promises that they can never keep. And it's up to us, it's up to everyone in this room to hold the red, yellow and blue Tories to account for the lies that we were sold before and after the referendum with the Smith Commission. It is really clear that the only way for us to secure the powers that we were promised in the referendum is with the SNP. And it's clear that we should put all of our support in supporting SNP candidates like Owen gain as much seats as possible in the run-up to the general election. Putting ideologies and political views aside, you know, we see people like Tommy, who is you know, the leader of the Solidarity Party. He's up here and he's advocating for us to vote the SNP because they are our best chance at achieving what we initially set out to achieve in the referendum. No other political party in Scotland, even in the UK, can even do a fraction of what the SNP, what we hope that the SNP will do once they get in power in May. You just need to watch the news to get an idea of how worried the parties down in England are of the SNP, with poll after poll landing in our favour, in the SNP's favour. Now, I know we can't get complacent with polls, but they're coming in consistently around Scotland, and it's clear that a vast majority of people in Scotland now want a change to the typical Labour drab. I mean, even disaffected no voters are turning to the SNP, with all hope of a productive outcome of the Smith Commission evaporating before our very eyes. You know, now a point I always like to say to people who repeat the horrific line, vote SNP, get Tories, what I like to say to them is we as a country have voted for Labour in every Westminster election since 1955. That's over 50 years we have voted for Labour, but yet for 38 years of that, we've been subject to Tory governments that we didn't vote for. That's almost double my lifetime. Most notably, the governments of Margaret Thatcher, who along with her Tory cohorts down in London, single-handedly destroyed the British working class and destroyed the British industry. It's up to us to convince the Scottish people in May not to make that same mistake again. I'm tired of hearing the same old rhetoric from Labour. Vote SNP, get Tories. If you don't vote Labour, then the Tories are going to get in power. Why should politics, you know, why should I have to vote for the lesser evil? Why has British politics become who's going to do the least damage rather than who's going to make the most change for the better of our country? And I truly believe that the SNP offers an alternative to this. If we can convince the Scottish public in May to vote for the SNP, then we stand a real chance in building the country that we would all like to see. You know, a progressive model to the world, to show how a country and government can be run. A country free from corporate control, a country free from nuclear weapons, free from tuition fees and austerity, a country where we can look towards sharing the wealth among the people rather than taking from the poor and giving and subsidising the rich. if we truly want to set an example to the world of how a socially just and equal society and country can exist, then what better place to start than Scotland? What better place to start than here? And voting for the SNP is a stepping stone to achieving the vision that was realised during the referendum. And it's up to everyone in the next 40 days to convince as many people as you can to make the progressive choice to a better future for generations to come. The future is in our hands, and I'm going to end with a short verse from the Jerry Cinnamon song, Hope Over Fear. We must seize the day. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Sam. On the Thursday or the Friday morning after we'd lost the referendum, we were held up in the house because there was press outside the door, and we were depressed and we weren't really speaking to anybody supposedly, but the phone was going non-stop. So we stayed in the Friday night, Tommy and I and Gabrielle. We didn't go out Friday night into the Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then later on when it got a wee bit darker, we ventured out, depressed, fed up, and we decided we'd go down to see my mum. So we walked through the streets in the scheme where we live, really fed up, really down, and we came across a group of the young team, as we would call them, big crowd of them all standing near where my mum lives, all drinking the bucky. All in the corner, all drinking the bucket, big squad of them. I said to him, oh my God, we're going to get landed here. The usual with Tommy, they'll say, oh Tommy, how are you? And I was in the jail and going to help me with this and going to help me with that. So as we walked towards them, I assumed that's what they were going to say, but they never. They stepped out and they said, Tommy, what are we going to do now? What's going to happen? Are we going to get independence? Tommy, tell us about it. What's going to happen? So he did, and when we walked away, I thought, I was so uplifted because I thought, the young team, they were all 15, 16-year-old people who would never, at any other time of any other election, ever think twice about asking him about politics. But they were wanting to talk about politics. And it gave us hope, and it cheered us up that night. I know it was an unusual thing, but it really did cheer us up that night, that the young team, there's Sam, you know, still invigorated, still want to know, and that really lifted us. So it lifts us completely, and we always remember that night. So going from one extreme, the Bucky Boys, to another, here we have a professional now, Owen Thompson, who is an SNP councillor, and who is standing at the general election 6 weeks' time for Midlothian. So I hope you'll give him all your support and your votes. Ladies and gentlemen, Owen Thompson.
Thanks for that very generous introduction, a professional, eh? Who'd have thought? No, I'm Owen Thompson. I'm the current leader of Midlothian Council. I've been a councillor now for 9 years, and I think over that time I've certainly grown into the role of a local councillor, dealing with local issues and the simple day-to-day of people coming to seek help. I mean, the bottom line of being an elected representative is that you're there to help and support the people in the communities who need help at a time when they can't necessarily get it themselves. That's a massive part of the role of an elected member. To me, I think a lot of the bad press that we see coming out of Westminster, out of the unionist parties largely, is because so many of them have forgotten that. They've got to a stage now where it's not about representing a community, it's not about representing the people who've actually given them the honour of serving the community. For so many of them it's become, what's in it for me? And it's every other week you see something else coming out about this. I think it's time for us to stand up and say, enough's enough. We're not having that anymore. We are not taking this is all about me as an individual. This is about our communities taking back the power base that we should have and the decision making that we should have, and electing elected representatives who actually are going to represent the communities that have put them into the parliament that's elected them. This campaign we're going into, I think, is unlike anything I have ever seen. I've been politically active since I was probably about 7 or 8. I was out with my dad, my uncle who's here tonight, my brother, off around the country doing by-elections, delivering leaflets, knocking doors, here, there and everywhere. I've grown up with politics, and I know that's not how everyone gets into it, but that's very much me. I eat, sleep and breathe it, and this campaign, it's different. For the first time, we're going into a Westminster election, and it's the SNP that are setting the agenda. Not just in Scotland. The SNP are setting the agenda across the whole of the UK. And it's absolutely terrifying the other parties. They do not know what to do with us. Now, there's a massive responsibility in that, because I think it would be very easy for us to get carried away. And I mean, we see what's happened with, well, just look at the Lib Dems after the last election. They suddenly thought they were a big party, went into a coalition, and they threw out every principle they've got. Now, I would say that the SNP have got a massive responsibility to make sure that we do not do that. Whatever the outcome of this election, and it could be spectacularly good, we could be in a position where the SNP are essentially the deal breakers on UK government budgets, on policy statements going through the UK government. We can't get caught up in that. We need to remember where we've come from at every step of the way. I think it's a safe thing to say that we will not see any SNP elected members getting caught up as part of the establishment. We're all going down there to settle up, not to settle down. So that kind of takes us... That probably takes me a step back from that, because I mean, we've heard Sam, and we all felt so sore after the referendum, and waking up or not going to sleep on the 19th. I can't quite remember, it all goes into a bit of a blur as to when you actually went to sleep, woke up or otherwise, but it was sore. It was a bad one, but I mean, since then I've sat, I've looked at it, I've reflected on the outcome, and you know, I think it wasn't a no vote, it was a not yet. The people of Scotland told us they weren't quite ready, but they definitely didn't go out in force to say that they're not having it. I think the promises of more powers that we now see falling by the wayside faster than you could shout at it, it shows that people were, that was what they were voting for. In the main, I think a lot of the people said, no, we're voting for these more powers. We've seen the Smith Commission not deliver. We've seen the Labour Party claim they'll deliver Home Rule after the Smith Commission. They'll do a bill in the first 100 days of the next Parliament, but suddenly, why were they not proposing that through the Smith Commission? Where was their proposals for new employment powers? Where was their proposals for welfare devolution? None of this was included in the Labour Party submission to the Smith Commission. So why should we believe them now? Did they really think that, having made us a promise in September that they broke by October, that we're suddenly sitting here and coming into April and we're going to suddenly just back up and believe them all over again? You really just couldn't make it up. They obviously do think that the people of Scotland literally zip up the back. It's just as taking the electorate for granted. I mean, I think as a party, the SNP have never been able to do that. I mean, we've had to work hard for every seat we've had anywhere. There's never been, certainly in this part of the country, anything such as a safe SNP seat. It's not been well, it's your turn, you're the next person to get elected because you happen to be the next in line. We've never had that. Every one of our elected members has had to work hard to get into the position they're in. And I think because of that, it makes us remember where we've come from. We know the path that we've travelled. We've all walked the streets and delivered the leaflets and knocked the doors and had the conversations that mean that we're all grounded and still very much part of the grassroots. We've not become detached in the way that the Labour Party have. Now, there's two choices essentially going into this election. Scotland's not going to vote Tory, that's just not happening. So it's SNP or Labour. That is the choice that we have across the country. Maybe a couple of exceptions possibly, but SNP or Labour. Labour are sitting there telling us, well, you vote SNP, you're going to get the Tories. Are they forgetting that they told us that back in 2010? That was only 5 years ago. And what happened? The people of Scotland voted Labour and got the Tories. And it's happened over and over and over again. I think enough's enough. It's absolutely clear that when the people of Scotland vote SNP in this election, they'll get SNP. And it's more than that. when you actually look at the policy platforms of Labour and the Tories, I mean, you could hardly fit a sheet of paper between them in times. Labour backing £30 million of Tory austerity cuts, following them through the chambers. They clearly enjoyed campaigning with them in the referendum so much that they've just decided to keep on going. As our own Labour candidate in Midlothian, certainly got elected to Midlothian Council on the back of Tory votes. So they are part and parcel of the problem. The solution is an SNP, a large grouping of SNP MPs in Westminster who will be able to force the hand of the Unionist parties to say, no, we are not accepting the £100 billion of Trident. That money could be spent on health and education and in public services. And while we're at it, why about we just think about getting rid of that House of Lords? Because that's a complete and utter waste of money as well that none of us have ever voted for. In this election, because of the platform and because of the profile our party has, for the first time we're being listened to. And if we're electing a seriously large group of MPs, then they're going to have to keep listening to us. If what happened in the past is people sort of, man, the polls are all great and it's brilliant to look like we're doing well, but if it comes through to it and we don't maybe get as big a number as we'd like, I mean, how are we going to feel like that? Because they'll just say, ah, well, we knew you didn't really mean it, and they'll just go back to business as usual. But if we've got a big group of SNP MPs down there, they have to listen. And they have to listen loud and clear to the message that's going to be sent to them. Because we need to be pushing for to cut back in the welfare cuts, to invest in our public services, to actually start looking at the powers that genuinely should be coming to the Scottish Parliament, to have real decision making that we were actually promised. Gordon Brown talked about wanting the closest thing to a home rule as you could get in a state where 85% of the population had made up one part of it. Well, let's see that. Let's actually have it. I mean, the Home Rule's not new to the Labour Party. Keir Hardie founded the party at the back of a principle of Home Rule. It was the Independent Labour Party in 1927 introduced the Home Rule Bill, the Government of Scotland Bill, to the House of Commons to introduce Home Rule to Scotland, and it's gone. So, yet another Labour promise down the pan, I suppose. But we've got a chance this time. We can actually make that difference. And I would urge you all, talk to your friends, keep everyone going. Polls are brilliant, but polls don't win elections. It's the votes that do, and we just need to make sure that every single vote that we can possibly muster comes in on the 7th of May. It's only 6 weeks today. It's not long at all now, so let's get out there, let's roll the sleeves up, let's get stuck into it, and let's deliver this SNP victory.
Thank you, Owen, that's great, thank you very much. A few years ago, Tommy made me a promise. Ooh. And that promise was that he said that he would take a step back from frontline politics. I believe that. And then the bedroom tax appeared. So we done about 96 meetings, and that was stepping back from mainline politics. So we done 96 meetings all over the place. And thankfully the Scottish Government have all but abolished the bedroom tax, effectively. Then the referendum appeared. And he done about 106 meetings all over the country. That was taking a step back from frontline politics. And now we have the general election. And he's been campaigning all over the place, asking people to lend their vote to the SNP. Now, I know, ladies, when a promise is broken, we don't really like it, but I'm hoping that this is a promise worth breaking. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Sheridan.
Thanks, Sarah. So unusual to get introduced by your wife, but hopefully you'll all agree that she's chaired the meeting tonight with great grace and candour. Thank you, Ian, for inviting Gail to chair the meeting. Before I get into the crux of what I want to say, I have to comment on how wonderful it was to listen to Sam speaking, 19 years of age. And sometimes, you know, I had the pleasure of sharing a platform with Sam. I've shared it with young chap Dylan. I shared it with young Mary Black. All of these youngsters who emerged in the course of the independence referendum and filled me with absolute pride and joy that this was the next generation of young Scots and that our future was in good hands, because they've got big hearts, they've got compassion, and they've got principle. And it's from that point of view that I'm very, very proud that what the referendum has done is it has politicised a generation. It has politicised a generation, and it's raised the sights of young Scots to the truth that another Scotland is possible. Another Scotland is possible. And I had the great pleasure yesterday of being even more inspired. I was invited to St George's Primary School in the south side of Glasgow in a place called Penicuik. And the reason I was invited into this school is because the primary 5 and primary 6 pupils have started a fundraising campaign to raise money and collect food for the local food bank, for the South West Food Bank run by the Trussell Trust. And they wanted me to come in to the school to speak to them in the assembly hall about poverty, child poverty, why there was so much poverty, and nuclear weapons. And you know, it was so damned uplifting to sit in front of about 50 or 60 young people of 10 and 11 years of age and listen to young Aidan, to listen to wee Paul, to listen to young girl Trish, all saying to me, Mr. Sheridan, do you agree that it's unacceptable that so many children are living in poverty and yet we're still spending millions of pounds on bombs? And I thought, hey, if the 10 and 11-year-olds at St George's Primary in Penicuik can get that message, why the hell can the Labour Party not get that message? That's the point. That's the point. As Owen and Sam have said, I believe in 6 weeks' time we have a unique general election. Some of you here are younger than me, some of you more mature, shall we say politely. But I think we can all agree that this general election in 6 weeks' time is the single most unique election in our lifetimes. Why? Because never in Scotland's history has there been a general election where the SNP are standing a chance of winning it. Never has that happened. And that's why I stand here tonight, not as an SNP member, not as an SNP promoter, not as a usual SNP supporter. I've supported in the past when it came to local candidates because we've got a good local candidate in our area. I'm not here on behalf of the SNP. I'm a socialist. And normally when it comes to general elections or any other election, I'd be standing here asking you to vote socialist, to vote for a fundamental redistribution of wealth, to vote for the public ownership of the big industries like the gas and the electricity, vote for trade union rights, vote for the redistribution of wealth so that we never have any poverty and inequality, that we use the wealth of our country to raise everybody's standard of living. That's the type of things that I believe in as a socialist. But what guides you as a socialist is the interest of your class. That's what should always guide you, in my opinion. That's your compass. Your moral compass is what's in the best interest of my class. Brothers and sisters, in 6 weeks' time, the best interest of my class will be to break the British establishment. That's the best interest of my class. That's why I want you to vote SNP. We have a reality here in a general election, a first past the post election. We all know it's an unfair electoral system, we know that, but it's all we've got at this stage. And when you've only got one vote, my appeal as a socialist to all of the other parties, whether it's the Green Party or other socialist parties, my appeal to you is to think with your head here. Have a wee bit of strategy here. We had, in the course of the referendum campaign, we had 1.6 million people who withstood the bullying, who withstood the lies, who withstood the bribery. They voted for a new and a better Scotland. We were undone by an unholy alliance of Tories, of Lib Dems, of Labour, who united with the millionaires and the billionaires in a disgraceful display that they will never recover from. They had unity in their side, and they managed to convince particularly the elderly, who they frightened. They frightened with all the threats that jobs were going to leave Scotland, pensions were going to be destroyed, economy was going to be destroyed, a lot of nonsense. But those lies had an effect. They were able to rely on that unity. Brothers and sisters, let's turn that unity on them now. Let's keep the unity. Let's keep the unity of the yes movement, of the yes community. Let's keep that together and use it in its most potent form by voting for the one political party that has the chance of beating not just the blue Tories, not just the yellow Tories, but beating the red Tories as well. That's what we've got a chance to do. We've got the chance in 6 weeks' time to send to Westminster an army of SNP MPs committed to independence, committed to unilateral nuclear disarmament, committed to alternative policies to austerity. As a socialist, believing in the best interests of my class, I think that is the best strategy to follow. That we ask the people of Scotland to lend their vote to the SNP in order to get independence back on the agenda, in order to get nuclear disarmament on the agenda, and in order to get an alternative to the austerity measures which are killing our class, killing our community. How dare they? How dare these multi-millionaires, these bankers who got us into the economic mess we're in the first place, how dare they turn round and say that the pensioners, the disabled, the low-paid should pay the price for their economic madness? Austerity amounts to punishing the poor for the mistakes of the rich, and we're not having it any longer. We're not having it. And that's why I'm really pleased to hear Owen here tonight. I've never met Owen until the start of tonight's meeting. I'm really pleased to hear what he had to say. That the SNP members going down to Westminster aren't going down to settle down, as he said. They're going down to settle up. That's the important point. That's the important point. I've been asked several times, Tommy, why are you not standing for Westminster? I said, I don't want to stand for Westminster, I want to blow the bloody place up. For God's sake, Guy Fawkes was the last decent guy who went in there with honest intentions. As far as I'm concerned, the SNP are going down there to deliver a message loud and clear. Westminster's days are finished. We will not accept any longer an economic and social system that delivers the obscene levels of inequality which are now shameful across our society. You know, We have reports here, the Tories will tell you, oh, everything's better, everything's better. Average wages are increasing, everything's better, you know, we're all part of the recovery now. What they fail to tell me and explain to you is when they talk about average wages includes the chief executives, includes the bankers, includes the MPs. The average wage of the bankers in the last 12 months has increased 34%. The average wage of the financial FTSE 100 directors has increased 14%. The average wage of MPs has increased 11%. The average wage of the armed forces, 1%. Teachers, 1%. Nurses, 1%. Brothers and sisters, that's a wage cut. Because when inflation's running at 3%, if your wages only goes up by 1%, that's a 2% wage cut. That's the reality of Britain. A Britain that has 1% of the population that now owns 55% of the wealth. That's unacceptable. We don't have in this country a problem of poverty. We have a problem of riches. That's the problem we've got. See, if we redistributed the wealth in society, there would be no need for any family to live in poverty. We could raise the standard and quality of life of every single family if we introduced a living wage, if we introduced living benefits, if we introduced a fundamental redistribution of wealth, then we could raise the standard of life of all of our citizens. That's why I want to break Westminster's hold on Scotland. I want to set about building a new, a better, a brighter Scotland that puts people first, that puts our bairns before bombs. That's the type of society that I think we all in our hearts want to build. How do we do it? Well, we do it in 6 weeks' time by using our democratic right to vote. We may have complaints. In relation to the SNP, I've got lots of friends in the SNP. I know a lot of politicians in the SNP. Some of them, I love sharing platforms with them. Others wouldn't share a platform with me, right? So it's a party that has got a multitude of characters in it. Some of them are socialists, some of them aren't. There's no doubt about that. We know that the SNP right now stands for get rid of nuclear weapons but staying in NATO. Well, that's contradictory for me. Nobody has to say to me, oh, but Tommy, you're saying vote SNP. They want to stay in NATO. I know that. I still say vote SNP. Some people say, oh, but Tommy, SNP want to cut corporation tax at big business. I don't agree with that. But that's not a reason not to vote SNP in 6 weeks' time. I say vote SNP with your eyes open. Vote SNP understanding the limitations they've got. Vote SNP on the basis that they've been put on a warning, similar to what Owen has just said. SNP win this election, 6 weeks' time. I don't want them to become a party of compliance with austerity. I want them to become a party of defiance of austerity. That's what I want them to become. And I'm sure Owen and the others are astute enough to learn that if they win this election, as we hope they do in 6 weeks' time, if they don't deliver, then in 12 months' time they might not just get the votes when it comes to the Holyrood election. That puts the SNP on a fighting footing. And I believe the overwhelming majority of that party want to get in there to fight for ordinary people. We can hold them to account. We can give them a chance. For goodness sakes, most of us in here, from a working class background, most of us, we were brought up Labour. You were told you were a nipper. You gave out the Labour stickers when the cars come round for the elections. You were told when you get old enough to vote, you vote Labour. That was in our DNA. The truth is, these people have abandoned us. The Labour Party is no longer the party of the ILP, of the Jimmy Maxtons. The Labour Party has abandoned all of the principles it ever stood for. I remember told this story earlier today. I remember sitting in the studio, the BBC studio at Pacific Quay in Glasgow on the night of the referendum. Wee Glenn Campbell was sitting. He was the chair in the programme. And we tweet come through on the teleprinter. And it was from Joanne Lamont, leader of the Scottish Labour Party, congratulating the Labour Party on the wonderful victory they had achieved. And I said to Glenn Campbell then, I said, Joanne Lamont and the rest of the new Labour crew should go and look up where the saying Pyrrhic victory comes from. It comes from a Greek general who in the course of fighting a war wanted to win one single battle so much that he expended too many of his troops. He won the battle, but he lost the war. And that's what's happened to the Labour Party. They may have won the battle temporarily in relation to the referendum, but they've lost the war for the hearts and the souls of the working class of Scotland. They've lost that war. They will never ever be trusted again when they were there dancing, sipping their champagne, hugging with the Tories and the Lib Dems, the multi-millionaires and the billionaires, all the press barons, all the BBC, all coalesced together to try and crush our dreams, to try and tell us we're no big enough, we're no smart enough, we're no intelligent enough, we can't afford to run our own affairs. Yes, we can. Yes, we are big enough, smart enough, courageous enough, and we are going to prove that in the course of the next 6 weeks. They may have won that wee battle, but we are going to win this war, brothers and sisters. We are going to win this war, and we're going to keep the dream of independence alive. We are going to show in 6 weeks' time that Scotland wants a new and a better country. That's why I would appeal on behalf of Hope Over Fear. I would appeal to you to get involved in this election. I'm not saying join the SNP. I'm saying support the SNP. I'm saying vote for the SNP. I'm not asking you to suspend your socialist credentials if that's what you are. I'm asking you to use your socialist credentials to work out that it would be much better to unite behind the SNP than to stand in an election and perhaps endanger a victory for the SNP. I don't know if some of you saw the Ashcroft poll a couple of weeks ago. This was a big opinion poll based on a lot of constituencies, and it predicted, by the way, it predicted that the SNP could win as many as 53 seats out of the 59. 53 out of 59. I hope they do. I hope they do. That will really wipe out the red, blue and yellow Tories in Scotland. I'll be over the moon if that happens. But part of that poll was an analysis of the East Renfrewshire seat of Jim Murphy. Sorry to swear if there's any Waynes here. And that poll showed that Jim Murphy would hold on to his seat by 1%. That same poll showed that the Greens were expected to poll 3%. Brothers and sisters, it doesn't take a mathematician to work it out, does it? Apparently the Greens haven't made up their minds yet whether they are going to stand in that seat. My appeal to the Greens and to everyone else on the left, the other socialist groups, my appeal is for this unique election, please stand down. Stand down and encourage your supporters to unite behind the Yes candidate, to unite behind the SNP. Imagine the impact, brothers and sisters, that we take Murphy's scalp. We take Murphy's scalp as well as the other 53 scalps across the whole of Scotland. That would be a political tsunami. That would shake the British establishment to the very core. Your Camerons and all your Eton boys in the world, wouldn't they be able to talk their way out of that one? That's the potential we have in our hands. Please, brothers and sisters, convince the other parties to stand down. This isn't a beauty contest. This isn't about showing how wonderful you can beat your chest and put up a candidate. I've been there, I've been that soji. I've worn that t-shirt. I know it's important to keep your banner flying. I've done it all my life as a minority. I've done it all my life. But when there are unique opportunities, it demands unique tactics. And the unique tactic here should be to unite behind the one political party that has got a chance of winning, and that's the SNP. So I'm going to ask you, brothers and sisters, not only in 6 weeks' time to vote SNP on that basis, I'm also going to ask you to come through to Glasgow on the 25th of April. On the 25th of April, we're going to be assembling in Freedom Square in the centre of Glasgow. And we're going to be appealing in particular to the young people of Scotland, many of whom don't use their votes at elections. They think, well, what's the use, it's not worth anything. I think the referendum has whet their appetite that politics might be worth something, and hopefully we can get that appetite wet again and get them voting for the SNP in 6 weeks' time. But we're also going to be appealing to former Labour voters. Labour voters who think that the loyalty to Labour should outweigh the potential for change in Scotland. As far as I'm concerned, we have to get everybody in George Square, 25th of April, hope over fear. To borrow, again, Sam mentioned Jerry Cinnamon's wonderful Hope Over Fear anthem, which I think is an inspiration, the song that he wrote in the course of that campaign. Hope over fear, seize the day, Carpe diem, our time has come here, our time has come. Let's stand up and be counted, and let's show the world that another Scotland is possible. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Johnny. I've been told that if you want some questions and answers by Tommy, John's given me another sign at the back, but if there's any questions here, just put your hand up and either Sam, Owen or Tommy can answer them, or they can all answer it. So if anybody's got any questions. Sorry, yes, what's your name?
Oh, it doesn't matter where we are, does it? I know folk came well. What I'm going to say is I was watching the news tonight. I was watching it. Is that switched on? Hello. I was watching the news tonight on the on STV, and Gordon Brown was giving a wee bit of a farewell speech. Obviously, they're shaking in their shoes. I think we're in a situation in my lifetime that I've never ever seen before. SNP coming up, really every single day in Westminster. Before it was mentioned now and again, but really this is every day it's coming up. And it's great that somebody like Gordon Brown is standing up there giving his farewell speech, and he thinks that there's still a possibility of the union getting torn apart. Well, with a name like Brown, I think the brown is flowing from the inside of his trousers, and I hope it continues. But all I would say is that to anybody that's gone down to Westminster, I wish you all the best, all the very, very best, and let's tear them apart, because this is another Bannockburn. Long live Scotland! Hey!
Somebody, who's singing, Tommy? Kevin, you're still going to sing, yeah? Yeah. If there's any more questions, because Kevin's going to give us another few wee numbers.
A couple
of songs. Anybody else want to ask a question?
Where's the party going to be?
Where is the party going to be?
Westminster.
Where's the party going to be?
I think one step at a time. Let's make sure we win the election first, and then we can all have a massive party.
Yay!
Okay, I think we're just going to move on to Kevin. You okay? You ready? Or should we give you a few more minutes? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
And all the best, Owen.
Can I just say, folk, I heard Kevin for the first time today and he blew us away. Absolutely brilliant. Listen to the lyrics, absolutely excellent.
Thanks very much, Tommy. Thank you. Hello, my name's Kevin Gore and I'm from Leith.
Hey!
Just like to say it's a great honour to be here today. Tonight even. I'm going to start with a song that I wrote just before the referendum. But it's a song that I'm going to keep singing until the day comes when the dream is realised and we do have independence. It's called Independence Day. A stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. Said I was a dreamer, let him have his say. I said, yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. When that day I'm dreaming of, well, it comes along for sure. We will have a country where all can be assured. A nation of equality, fairness and respect. And the government we vote for is the government we get on Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. I'm not anti-English, Northern Irish or the Welsh. I'm just dreaming of a country that distributes its wealth. Downtrodden people that have opportunity to break the chains and free themselves from the traps of poverty on Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. But I know that I am fortunate. I know well off I am compared to those in Syria and in the Palestine. I'm just dreaming of a country that one day will be free to determine our own future and our people's destiny. On Independence Day, Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. A stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. Said I was a dreamer, let him have his say. Said, yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of Independence Day. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was listening to Gail earlier and she was saying how, you know, batten down the hatches type thing the night after the referendum. So I did much the same, and through my frustration and my anger, I wrote this song called Come Join the 45. And I think it's not just about the 45, it's making us 55, 65, 75, that's what we need. reaching out to people and getting them to join the ranks. Clear. We did not yield to the project fear. The propaganda, their shameful lies, their mask has slipped, no more in the sky. For social justice, prosperity, to rid our country of the scourge of poverty.
Kevin, that was great. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, I'm going to ask all the speakers here if they want to sum up for 5 minutes or a couple of minutes or whatever. And then just in case there's anybody that wants to ask anything, you can maybe pop your hand up and we can somebody can answer your question. So, you using that mic? There we go, Sam Shackleton.
Well, I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. We really have an amazing opportunity on our hands here. We've heard from Owen and we have heard from Tommy. We can really direct Scotland's future to a much more beneficial and better country in May, and really we just have to seize the day on May and encourage as many people, as many young people, old people as we can to vote for the SNP in the general election. Thanks a lot.
I'm going to let you all into a secret. Well, I don't know how much of a secret it is, but Gordon Brown's coming back to Midlothian this weekend.
Oh!
Now, I think, look at the turnout we've got tonight. We've got an event, it's been advertised, you've been asked come along, here's a venue, come and listen to the speakers, ask your questions. Did the Labour Party do the same? No. Not a chance. Letters went out to, we're not actually sure how people's names and addresses were harvested, but letters go out inviting you to register to an event in a secret location.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, maybe, if you're lucky enough to be selected, where this secret location is close at the time, because they can't possibly tell you where it is for security reasons. Could you imagine if we tried to do anything like that through the Yes campaign or through this current general election campaign? No, we can't tell you where the meeting is. If we think you're suitable, then you can come and hear what we've got to say and you can ask your questions. It's just, to me, it just sums up the difference that we've got here. Yet again, it's the Labour Party talking to themselves. They're not interested in hearing what the people of Scotland have got to say. I think it's brilliant that we're able to have events like this. I think it's great that Tommy's doing the tour. I think we've got to have more of this, talking to each other, talking to the people in our communities, having an open door. Let people ask their questions. We might not always agree, but we'll be open enough to say that. I think that's, to me, that sums up the whole campaign that we're facing here. We've got a closed Labour Party who've closed ranks and aren't interested in the people of Scotland. We've got the SNP out and around the country, talking to people, having meetings like this, filling halls and answering questions. So I'd just say again, thanks very much for the support, thanks for coming tonight, and please continue lending your support or giving your support or doing whatever support you can, because on the 7th of May we can genuinely do this.
Yeah.
Well done, Owen. Well done, Sam. Well done, Gail. Can I say, in relation to Owen, I said earlier that I had never met him before, so I'd agreed to speak on the basis that Ian had arranged the meeting. I've got to say I'm now very, very glad to have shared a platform with Owen, because he certainly strikes me as somebody who would make a first-class representative here for Midlothian. I wish you all the best. I want to, before I finish, just a couple of remarks. I want to, first of all, say that I thought Kevin's contribution to the meet tonight was tremendous. I thought the lyrics, his songs were absolutely brilliant. He's far too shy to make the point that he does have a CD. I bought one earlier today. It's only £6 and it's got all those songs and others on it. So if you can afford it, not everybody can afford it, but if you can afford it, then please get one of those CDs. I'm certainly going to have it in the car all the way back to Glasgow, and it's going to inspire me. So thanks very, very much. And he's also going to be playing in Glasgow on the 25th of April. So. And just in case I get lynched from my big mucker up the back, John, who's one of the coordinators of the Hope Over Fear campaign, can I remind you that the flags and the t-shirts are available at the back. We looked around some of the merchandise that's available. All of it's brilliant, but some of it was a wee bit pricey, so we've kept the t-shirts down to a £5. Hopefully that is affordable for you. And I think the message is absolutely brilliant. Something inside so strong, I'm still yes. I think that's the message that we want to get out there. Folks, my final few remarks are simply to thank all of you for taking the time to come out to this meeting. There's still 6 weeks to go to the general election. and you've effectively came to a general election meeting, which is brilliant. I think there'll be more meetings like this nearer the time, but it's fantastic that you've given up your valuable time to come along and hear what we've got to say. I think it's absolutely essential that we vote with our heads on the 7th of May, so that we can waken up on the 8th of May with a new Scotland on our hands. Next year there is a Scottish Parliament election. Then you can use your head and your heart, because you've got 2 votes. So from that point of view, I'm not saying to everybody, others who are maybe got a track record of standing elections, maybe they're not happy that I'm asking them not the cable, well, I'll use this one. Use that one. 1, 2. Maybe they're not happy that I'm asking them to consider standing down. Oh, why should we stand down? We've stood at other elections, etc., etc. Okay, I can accept that criticism. Somebody, a young man at the start of the meeting, made the point that we had a conference recently, Solidarity, the party that I'm the convener of. We had a conference in Motherwell recently, and we had a discussion that went on for several months, and we had a vote at a conference, and it was over this strategy of whether we as a socialist party should call on the people of Scotland to vote for the SNP rather than to vote for socialist candidates. And it was a great debate, it was a very friendly debate, but after it was something like 90% voted in favour of that strategy. Some people voted against it, and some people said, oh, you know, we can't have that, we're leaving, and I was letting people down, and I was letting the socialist cause down and everything else. Sometimes, folks, sometimes when you make a stand over something, you might find yourself falling out with people over it, and they might even be friends, might even be family. But see, if you think it's the right thing to do, then I think sometimes you just need to have the courage to stand up and do the right thing. And I think with the uniqueness of this general election, the right thing to do is to call for a vote for the SNP. So I urge each and every one of you, let's transform Scotland together. No for us, but for my wee Wayne at the back here, 10 years of age, for your wee Waynes and grand Waynes. That's who we're fighting for here. It's a new Scotland we want to build for them. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, everybody, for coming. Good night. Sorry, Sam's going to say something.
I'd just like to say a quick thing to the women who asked where the party was. The party will be down in Westminster, and it'll be in May, and Owen will be there along with his 52 other friends.
Yeah, that was good. You've got a great candidate in Melbourne. It's just what's your background, yourself, are you been in politics?
Yeah, no, I was involved in the student politics.
Are you threatened by words from an empire of money and gold? Will you trade in your country's potential for the lies you've been sold? Are you scared that the walls are too high to be breached by the bold? Will you stand and be counted or shut up and do what you're told? Hope over fear, don't be afraid. Tell Westminster Tories that Scotland's no longer your slave. Can't be the end. Will you seize the day? Rip the chains from the unicorn, show them that Scotland is brave. Did the TV man call you a nationalist for rejecting the lies? All the words of the few worth a bomb, cause you wear shirts and ties. When they tell you that Scotland's no great, are you really surprised? Will you stand and be counted for something?